Earth is overrun by blind aliens with extremely sensitive hearing. The remnants of humanity are forced to adapt to a new world where every random rustle, even the rustle of clothing, can cost lives. We'll talk about the mistakes made, the desperate situations you'll find yourself in, and why you won't survive against the angels of death in a quiet place. In 84 days, the alien invasion wiped out a large part of the Earth's population. All survivors had to adapt to a new way of life, closing their airways and being wary of any rustle. This was not easy, because the voice is the main means of communication. Because of the need to maintain complete silence, groups of survivors found it very difficult to discuss strategy, leading to multiple mistakes and deaths. The strength and speed of the aliens leaves humans no chance at direct contact. Attempts by the victim to resist or escape usually fail. These creatures are lightning fast and brutal, making confrontation with them almost hopeless. Angels of death evolved on a dark planet, so they lack vision, but in return, harsh conditions and high competition led to the formation of thick armor on the body of monsters, impenetrable to bullets and explosions. The evolution of angels allowed them to survive the explosion of their planet, the flight through space on a comet, and the impact on the Earth. These facts suggest that they are capable of going into anabiosis or have a long lifespan that allows them to survive long space travel. These creatures are extremely resilient. Spouses Lee and Evelyn Abbott, along with their eldest daughter Reagan, son Marcus, and youngest child Beau, go on a foray for supplies. At the supermarket, Beau reaches for a battery-operated toy space shuttle. The child wants to plunge into carefree childhood and does not fully realize how dangerous it is to make unnecessary noise. You don't want to take the whole family on an outing for supplies when you can limit the size of the group. When accidentally meeting the angel of death, the outcome will largely depend on luck, because the behavior of children at the sight of the monster can be spontaneous and unconscious. The family would increase their chances of survival if their movement through the sand had strict rules in which everyone has their place in the row, and Beau definitely shouldn't be at the very beginning. At the store, Beau has made every member of the family nervous several times. He shows by all his actions a lack of understanding of the horror of the whole situation and requires constant supervision. It's enough to switch places between Reagan and Beau so that the child is always in sight. You will not survive if every step in the dangerous outings is not carefully planned. Unfortunately, the homecoming turned tragic because Beau turned on a noisy toy and attracted the attention of the angel of death. A year after the tragedy, the Abbotts continue to live quietly on their farm, trying to adjust to the harsh reality. Lee regularly tries to contact other survivors by radio, but his efforts remain unsuccessful. Lack of communications, under these circumstances, severely limits your survival options. Other people can be not only sources of mortal danger, but also excellent allies with whom you can organize joint forays, exchange useful information and skills. At the same time, a farm full of food and its inhabitants are at risk of being targeted by malevolent people looking to take advantage of the chaos and lawlessness. There is always the possibility of meeting a group of people determined to harm you and your family, no matter what nightmare is going on around the world. They have the ability to bring alien creatures upon the inhabitants of the farm for their own interests so that they can then appropriate the plantations for themselves. The Abbott farm, surrounded by forests, is vulnerable because the entire area is open to surveillance and Lee's cameras are unable to detect the threat from a great distance. In the evenings, Lee, as well as other survivors, turn on the lights. This way of signaling with others gives you a good feeling that you are not alone in this world, but the main problem is that these people are strangers to you, and therefore unpredictable. One crazy or hungry survivor will be enough to bring trouble to all the inhabitants of the farm, while an honest alliance can make survival much easier. While the issue of alliances is crucial to survival, it also poses potential dangers. Being among the tall plantations also seems unsafe. The aliens' blindness is one of their weaknesses that keeps the Abbott family still alive, so it makes no sense to block their view and live in the middle of the plantations. Someone in the Abbott family could have been in the poor raccoon's shoes. For example, deaf Reagan, who has no way of hearing a noisy animal, and the plantations only make visibility worse. The combination of all the factors makes me seriously consider moving the whole family as close as possible to the river where Lee regularly gets fresh fish. The waterfalls repel the angels of death thanks to their loud noise. Nearby, a man can safely warm up his vocal cords. It would be safer to set up somewhere near the river. The farm should be used as a source of food, not as a primary shelter. Not far from the waterfall, a wooden hut could be used to give birth to Evelyn without the risk of attracting the attention of the creatures. The wrong choice of shelter in a world filled with aliens will result in death. Cooking could also be a challenge. The abbots have found a good solution. They avoid ceramic or metal utensils and use soft materials, but the situations in which humans can find themselves are myriad. For example, building a fire in the middle of the forest and the crackling of burning branches can attract the attention of monsters. In such conditions, the survivor risks eating poorly cooked or raw meat. Poisoning by poor quality food will make it very difficult to live a silent lifestyle. Cooking can become a very acute problem if you don't have a secure shelter and proper creativity. Psychological aspects of the individual play a significant role in the current circumstances. Constant anxiety over the threat of unwanted attention, difficulties in communication, despair, and a sense of lost future can take away the ability to think rationally. In order to cope with emotional challenges, survivors may become overly aggressive or depressed, which in some cases prevents them from being quiet. Any emotional turmoil can cause you to commit rash acts, as it happened to an old man whom Lee and Marcus met by chance. The old man had just lost a loved one and couldn't hold back a cry of despair. If Lee hadn't pulled his son away from the threat and covered his mouth, the alien who heard the old man scream would have massacred everyone. This case demonstrates how critical it is to remain calm and control emotions in an environment where every careless action can lead to tragic consequences. Reagan can't let go of the guilt over the death of her younger brother Bo. She goes alone to the makeshift tombstone, where she stays until the evening. This act comes with certain risks to herself and her family. Every unplanned departure from the farm can turn into an irreversible tragedy. Moreover, the disappearance of a family member is certain to cause the others to rush out to search for him, which also carries risks. This emphasizes the importance of maintaining strong and trusting relationships within the group. Otherwise, your loved ones may start doing rash things and tend to drift apart. This is exactly what the alien creatures are waiting for. In the evening, when Lee and Marcus return home, Evelyn's water suddenly breaks, causing her to act inattentively. She steps on a protruding nail and breaks the glass, which provokes the aliens to head towards the farm. It is a very difficult situation in which it is almost impossible to survive. The labor that has begun is accompanied by severe pain, making it difficult to keep a low profile and control random sounds. The house, despite Lee's efforts, is still not the best shelter against the alien enemy. A nail-shaped obstacle, lack of cover, and numerous sonic distraction traps leave no choice but to hope for luck. In a poorly prepared dwelling, the victim risks being crammed into a corner alone with the alien and a host of heavily controlled emotions. Childbirth requires considerable physical and emotional effort. This can lead to severe exhaustion, which reduces concentration and results in a slower response to threats. Evelyn only managed to survive thanks to the fireworks being set off in time. Reagan rushes to her family after seeing the fireworks, while Marcus helps distract the monster. The boy manages to hide in the corn, but he loses his flashlight. At that very time, the creature that was chasing the boy stops next to Reagan. The girl was a step away from death, but she was lucky, just in time. Her hearing aid emits high-frequency sound signals that not only make the monster uncomfortable, but also disorient it. Having gained a few minutes, Reagan rushes to her brother. In this situation, the children were saved by sheer happenstance. If Reagan had been hearing, or the machine hadn't made a noise painful to the monster, they would have become just another alien victim. The children climb to the top of the tower where the corn was stored. They want to light a fire that will attract the attention of their parents. Unfortunately, there is too little fuel and the fire quickly dies out. Reagan and Marcus begin to argue. The girl believes that her father will leave her to die and save only her brother, because it is her fault that the younger child died. The guys choose a bad time to find out their relationship. Despite the fact that they managed to drive away from themselves the angel of death, the danger of a repeated attack has not disappeared anywhere. Finding yourself in a situation like this, arguing only increases the chances of getting killed. So not only do you make the group panic and do rash things, but you also let the monsters know where you are. In a world destroyed by sound-oriented creatures, it's important to talk business only. Think 1,000 times before you let your emotions get the best of you, or you'll be easy prey for the creatures. In the course of the conflict, Marcus falls right inside the tower and begins to drown in corn kernels. At this very time, the structure begins to collapse, attracting the angels of death walking around looking for more victims. Fortunately for the kids, the sound of the hearing aid again scares away the monster that has gotten too close. Reagan helps her brother escape the trap. It's unlikely you'll be carrying around a hearing aid, which will scare off the bloodthirsty angel of death at the most unexpected moment. Evelyn takes the newborn baby to a specially constructed cellar and falls asleep. She does not sleep long. The woman wakes up, sensing an imminent threat. A pipe burst in the room where the mother left the child. The sounds attracted the Angel of Death, who had no trouble getting into the safe soundproofed room and approaching the box where the baby was sleeping. Evelyn manages to save her son and hide with him in her arms. The water scares away the angels, but it is hardly able to drown out the noise made by the newborn. The infant could have become frightened and started crying, which guaranteed its death. In this situation, the family members were again saved by a series of fortuitous events. In reality, even a soundproofed room is not going to help survive an alien invasion with an infant ready to cry at any moment. Having children in a dead world is tantamount to a death sentence. Lee finds the children and tries to save them. Unfortunately, the man let his guard down. The Angel of Death got too close and wounded him badly. The father of the family realizes that bullets and explosions can't harm the creatures, so he distracts the Angel of Death with his screams, giving the children a chance to escape. The monster kills Lee, thanks to which the children manage to return home. The head of the family forgot the main rule: always be vigilant. With his death, he only made it harder for his family to survive in the future, which should never have been allowed. Lee succumbed to his emotions, whereas in such scenarios, one should try with all one's might to keep a sober mind. Unfortunately, it's almost impossible. People can involuntarily panic, get scared, do something stupid, especially when it comes to saving their own children. No matter how strong mentally you are, sooner or later you will face a situation from which there is no way out. Evelyn hides in the basement with the children. In the moment, Reagan finds her father's notes, in which he tried to identify the monster's weaknesses. It finally gets to the girl. The Angels of Death are virtually helpless against high-pitched sound. Fortunately, Reagan's hearing aid was in the very range that caused the monsters to become disoriented in space. The fact was that the Angels of Death experienced intense pain behind the thick plates of their hearing organs. But it is impossible to come to such a conclusion in an ordinary situation. A series of random events that played into the family's hands allowed them to survive. Ordinary survivors like you certainly won't have that opportunity. Even the fighting weapons are incredibly rare, which the Abbott family was lucky enough to have. That's why the monsters from the movie A Quiet Place will exterminate not only humans, but all creatures on planet Earth. The chances of surviving an alien invasion are slim to none. Ordinary firearms are not able to cause serious damage to armored creatures. On the contrary, it only attracts their attention. And the only effective way not to become a victim is a silent way of life, which requires special care, because any misstep will attract the attention of the Angels of Death, which lightning destroy the inhabitants of the planet. It took the Abbott family more than a year to discover the monster's weakness, but even that doesn't change the rules of the game much, though it slightly increases the chances of survival. In the 400 days since the invasion, only a small handful of people have managed to survive, and it's almost impossible to become a part of them.